Howdy everybody, and welcome back to our next part in this tutorial. So we are going to go over the save load system today, and like I mentioned last time, it's not going to be a full save load system because that requires an actual data management system to be added to the game as well. And this game tutorial isn't in depth enough that I decided to add the data management system. So if you want to know more about the data management system side, you can look up a tutorial by Pixelated Pope and use that. But this will be the framework that would work with a data management system. So let's get to it. Let's get cracking. Let's see here. Whoops, wrong one. Alright, so last time we made the text box save and the text box load. So we're just going to add some code to these things so that they will pop up when you touch the grandpa or the grandma character. Not in a bad way, hopefully. So to start with, we are going to create some variables that probably aren't really necessary, but I'm just setting them up anyways because you might be able to use them in the future. Pardon my my American English. No U in the color. So we're going to set our text color to white. Font underscore is equal to global dot font. I'll talk about that in a second. Text box underscore sprite. Text box underscore mini underscore sprite is equal to sprite underscore box small. Text underscore is equal to save game with me. And it's important that you use capitals on this, and I'll explain that along with the font in a second. And last but not least, the 0, because we don't want this animating. Index is equal to 0 because we want to make sure that we are on the 0 frame, even though it's not animating. So what we got going here, we have text color, we have the font, and all these things set up. So most specifically with the font, we go back to our macro script. And you'll note here that I've set up a font using this. I created a temporary variable real quick. This is just holds all the different characters that are in my font file. And that font file is right here. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, so on and so forth. And what happens is this map uses this function here to set up your font so that it will... So this 0 corresponds to 0 whenever you type a 0, and 1 to a 1, and A goes to an A. But you have to make sure that you type these things in the same order as the font letters in your sprite for the font. This is setting up a font from a sprite, and that allows you to do different text effects if you want, but you can also set up sprites by using the font system, but I'll go over that in another tutorial in the future. But for now, we're just going to use this system because that's what I got from the NES emulator when I ripped out the font sprites and whatnot. So anyway, so we have this global.font is equal to font add sprite font standard underscore map, uses that map, true and 1. These are variables that I actually have no idea what they're for. I just set them true and 1 because I've never had to use anything else. Then draw underscore set font so that my font is set to this by default. Anyways, and that's why back over here in the text underscore it has to be all capital because I've only mapped capital letters. So You have to have capital letters or else it won't display anything when you type in. If you had a E there, it just wouldn't show up an E because it doesn't know anything about a lowercase e with this font. Alright, so what next? Let's see here. Let's add in a step event here. So with this text box, we are going to want to be able to choose yes or no. Matter of fact, go back here and take a look at this. So that's just the text box. And we have a smaller version as well, which is where the yes and the no will go into. So we're going to want to be able to navigate through this. So gate if not audio underscore is underscore playing sound underscore select underscore tick, then do this stuff. Because whenever you move the arrow around, it makes a little noise, and we don't want you to be moving the arrow while that noise is playing. So first off, if object underscore input dot left underscore pressed, then we want to check our index. It's equal to wrap minus index underscore 0 1. So what does this do here? We set our index equal to a value between 0 and 1 using our wrap script that you remember I talked about this a little bit earlier. If it goes to 2, then it sets it back to 0. If it goes to -1, then it sets it back to 1. And why do I have minus here in front instead of behind like normally? Well, in this case, what happens is we want the calculation to happen before it is used in the script. So this will have it so that it will go to -1 or whatever the minus value would be. So if it was 1, it goes to 0, and then it's used in the calculation. While if I put the minus after index, then it would calculate it based on whatever it was. So if it was 1, it would do the script based on 1, and then after it runs the script, it would then minus back to 0. So it wouldn't work if you did it the other way around. And now we add in just a little bit of sound. There we go. So that should be our navigation through the menu. Just have an extra parentheses there. There we go. So what do we do if we select? Then let's do some stuff. So we switch based on the index. If our index is currently 0, yes, then we would run a save game script if we had one. But since we don't, I am going to just say show underscore debug underscore message saved, so you can actually see it happen in the debug. And set our character selector's selecting option back to true, because we are going to kill the box after we play sound. there we go. And when we select no, it'll be fairly similar, except we just don't bother with the saving part. Game not saved. Select is equal to true. Sound fail. And instance destroy. And that should be good. And finally, exit. Then we just do this. There we go. So that should be all of our navigation done. So let's make it actually display. So let's see, we want to draw on the GUI because it's easier to draw on the GUI to some extent. It doesn't really matter as much in these NES games sometimes because a lot of times the room size is the same as the size of everything else. You don't have like a... As far as this game goes, whenever a GUI displays, the room is the same size every single time. So I could just use room coordinates, but drawing on the GUI is better because it's always the same coordinates. So anyways, draw GUI. And let's set up our text here. Even though we have set up our text font and whatnot earlier, we'll want to make sure we set it up again just to make sure. So, text color. Set our alignment, FA underscore left, because we want to make sure we're aligned to the left. And U, FA underscore top. So with these things, these are again global sort of variables. So when you set it here, it'll affect everything else unless you change it again in that place. That's why you set them always before you do anything, because you never know where you left off somewhere else that you didn't reset things. So you want to make sure you set them beforehand. So we're going to do text box under sprite. And probably do this back here just to kind of keep things segregated. I already set the color, so don't need to do that. So we got our sprite there, and we can draw our text, but I'm kind of organizing this a little bit better as I go, so draw that as well. Position underscore x underscore plus 12. Position underscore y underscore plus 38. So we have our variables for our font set. We draw the sprites for the text box. And then we draw the font on top of the sprites, because if we drew the font here, then the sprites would cover it up. So we got to draw the font afterwards. There. Actually, let's change that so that's font. And this is text. It sounds a little bit better. So draw underscore text x underscore plus 8. Position underscore y underscore plus 8. And text underscore. draw underscore text, position underscore x underscore plus 9, position underscore y underscore plus 48. Yes, no. Yeah, that should be right. Just make sure I have the right amount of spaces there. 1, 2. And finally, we also want to draw a selector for our saving and our loading. So, well, for our yes or no. So if index underscore is equal to 0, draw underscore sprite underscore c lector 0, position underscore x underscore plus 19, position underscore y underscore plus 48. It's a bit of a magic number, all of these plus 48 plus 12s, but you figure out where in the world they go and you just live with it. In this case, draw your plus 50. Alright, so this should work properly now, so let's check it out in the game. Actually, come over here. Make sure that I set these up to create the save load. Yeah, I haven't done it yet. So instance underscore create underscore layer. X, Y, doesn't really matter where you put it up, so I'm just going to put them at 0 because the character draws where I want it to rather than where it's put in the screen. Instances object underscore. Let's see, did grandma save or does grandma load? Let me check here. Grandma saves. There we go. And we'll do the same thing over here with the grandpa. Except it should be load. Alright, so let's take a look. There we go. Now you'll note that it's kind of long between how long it takes for me to be able to move between each one of the yes or no option. That's mainly because the audio file for that audio file has a really long tail end of blank sound. So I'd have to trim the audio file to be able to swap between these things in a faster fashion, but I'm not going to be doing that right now. So let's see. If we do yes, you get the little and the fail. And if I do him, well, nothing happens because I haven't put it in debt for that yet. So let's take all this code and move it over to the load as well. So it's pretty much going to be a copy paste on these because they're almost identical. So not you. Come on, you. Get them right next to each other so it's easier. There we go. And load game with me. And come here. Add in a step event. Game not loaded. That would be game if we were doing that. Then add event for drawing on the GUI. And there we go. Let's see. Yep, everything should be just fine. So now the grandpa should be able to do his thing as well. Anyway, so yeah, that's saving and loading for the most part. And now I would like to be able to do a full save load on how to do it all together. But, you know, I really got to save something for later on, you know. You got to have something for your future tutorials. So there we go. Plus also, again, like I said, I didn't really feel that it needed it in this tutorial, so. But you got the framework here. There we go. Alright, well, happy coding and good luck.